Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Yak Gadget. For all your kayak fishing accessory needs, go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, coolers, and lighting. Go to pelican.com. The 153 Bait Company. For all your hard and soft bait needs, go to the153anglers.com. Now let's get this show started.
What's up, guys? It's been a long 3 weeks. Me and Josh were just talking about it. What's up, Josh? How you doing?
I'm good, Brad. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, a good break. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, buddy.
Heck yeah.
Did you have a good Christmas?
I did, man. I got to see both sides of my family, and I got to see my sister I haven't seen in 3.5 years. So it was a good time.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. So
your sister live out of town?
Yeah, she lives in she was in Japan because her husband was in the military, and then they moved to California when he got out, and then just haven't seen him since they moved back to the States.
That's cool.
Yep.
Did you get any cool fishing stuff for Christmas?
I did. I got a couple Yak Gadget things from my wife, so that's pretty cool. And then Jig Masters gift card, so I can stock up on some stuff. What about you?
No.
No?
No. I have no one to buy me presents, Brad.
I'm going to buy you a present.
I mean, I got some presents. I didn't get any fishing stuff, so.
I usually never get fishing stuff, so it's whatever.
It's cool. It's a change, right? It's a good change.
Yeah. I was digging it.
I see you sporting that Ashigan hat.
Yeah, I've had this, though.
Achigan?
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty cool hat.
Yep.
All right, dude.
Let's get in this episode, man. Cam Deal over at Faith and Fishing Podcast, he hooked us up with Greg Ferris from Adventure Designs Watercraft to talk about his, I think it's called a Trident.
Yep.
Right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Trident Explorer.
Awesome. So, welcome to the show, Greg.
Thank you.
Usually we start off the show by you letting the listeners know who you are, how you got into the whole kayak game, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm located right off the Mississippi River in Muscatine, Iowa, and been an avid fisherman my whole life. Buddy introduced me to kayak fishing about 5 or 6 years ago, and I bought a basic kayak and really, really loved it. But then I go out there sometimes, especially if there's some wind, and I get kind of frustrated. And I've been a product designer my whole life. I've always been, that's kind of just in my DNA. And at some point I started thinking about, well, what could we do that was different, that would work better. And so began the quest about 3.5 years ago now. And through a lot of iterations and a lot of market research, talking to people, stalking strangers at lakes, making my family really uncomfortable when I just randomly talk to people at Bass Pro, all kinds of things like that have helped kind of evolve the idea into a product. And I think the greatest compliment I got was from a small paddle sport dealer in Waverly, Iowa, Crawdaddy's. The owner of that shop saw me at a sports show this spring, where I had my very first production model, and he looked at it and he said, "You know, you got yourself a product. I didn't know if you're ever going to get there. You know, I saw all the prototypes and everything, and I kind of wondered if this was ever going to be a product, but you've really turned that corner into having something that's legit and something that people are going to want."
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that your first product or your first prototype came out just recently. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's the first production unit. The first prototype, kind of funny, if you look on the website, there's a tab for the story. and there's a picture of me floating on it in a Holiday Inn Express swimming pool.
Yeah, on your phone version.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that was just kind of proving out that the thing worked. And unfortunately, when the prototype got done, it was January or December, and there wasn't any liquid water here in Iowa. So I had to find something suitable indoors. So fortunately, I had a friend that I bowled with that was a manager that was able to get me in there.
So how did your first prototype turn out? What was it that you saw that you needed adjustments on?
Yeah, I mean, the first prototype, you can actually look at it and see that I decided that I needed to go to what I had set as my maximum width. Those pontoons are sort of sticking out. You see that white paper.
Yeah.
So I had that. It had already been modified at that point, and you'll also notice that the production model's about 2 feet longer, just overall larger to increase capacity. So market research was pretty clear. It's like there's a lot of guys that fish that are not 180 pounds, and they also like to carry a lot of gear. And when I went to lakes and saw serious kayak fishermen, I was sort of in awe of the gear that they carried with them for an afternoon, out on the lake. It was a lot. So that's what really led to the evolution of making it bigger and improving the stability of it, even further, because when I started this whole thing, for me, it was all about, I want my hands free so I can constantly fish, don't have to worry about stopping to maneuver the boat, so I'd always be making these like ridiculous casts. The wind's blowing me this way and I wanted to cast over there, and I'm making a cast like this. And I was like, God, I hope this isn't when the 6-pounder bites, because I have no chance. So the analogy I use is it sort of allows you to make a lot of small adjustments on a continuous basis that you really don't even think about, versus kind of getting to a point where it's like, oh my, I can't do this anymore. Then putting the rod down, grabbing the paddle, maneuvering to set yourself up again.
Yeah. And by the time you put your paddle down, you're blown the opposite direction and you get frustrated.
Yeah. And you can never, I always hated the fact that I couldn't fish into the wind very well.
Yep.
I'd have to drift, fish while I was drifting one way, and then I had to paddle myself all the way up the other side if I wanted to go, against the wind. I fish against the wind all the time with the Trident. Don't have any issue with that. So
it looks like the way the hull shape too, you might have a little like aerodynamics running through. Like, is there space in between the water and the bottom?
Yeah, trying to get to the stability, like really maximize the stability, because when I was out doing the market research on the design, I was really surprised by the fact that stability to stand for just anybody was really viewed as one of the most valuable aspects of the design. More enough so that you'll notice, like, we generally list stability for anybody to stand as the first most important value proposition that this offers. So the trade-off there, when you go wider, and fishing kayaks have just been continuously getting wider, is more drag through the water. So the idea with the tri-hull was to have less hull in the water, but still have that width for the stability. So it's kind of like having outriggers, but not having these goofy styrofoam outriggers sticking out.
Yeah, and might as well use use that concept in a sense to widen out the platform, for the seat and storage and stuff, because I see a lot of people take like their little tiny kayaks that they buy, like the little 10-footers or whatever, and they start realizing it's not as stable as what they originally thought, and start throwing, the outriggers on it. But it's not really taking advantage of that entire space. And that's what you guys have done.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing that kind of like stuck out to me was like that long nose. So if you like, a lot of kayaks don't have space where you can set your rods down, like while you're traveling to another spot or something. You can probably lay 4 rods, probably even more than that on the deck.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, there's a couple integrated rod holders, and I usually have a crate with a couple rod holders too. So you can, if somebody says there's not enough space for my gear on the Trident Explorer, they have a heck of a lot of gear.
I believe it. I mean, that back end's pretty big.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's really nice, is that you can get to this storage while you're seated in the chair, or you can stand up, turn around, and grab it. Whereas in a lot of kayaks, some of that storage is kind of not accessible unless you get out of the boat.
Right. Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's definitely an interesting design. I appreciate it that it's not anything out there really that's on the market.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see you've got research into what was already out there, and a complete, but it's completely a unique design at the same time. And I find it very interesting. So what do you attribute to the overall design, the finished product, that is making it less wind resistant?
As far as wind resistance, I don't know if it's necessarily more wind resistant because the user is elevated. So there's always, in every design there's trade-offs. So you do have the user elevated, which allows for a really comfortable ergonomic seated position, and then the ability to stand in front of the seat, flip the seat up and then stand in front of it, or you can actually kind of sit on the seat with it picked up to give you like a perch, kind of hook your heels on the gunnel, which that's my favorite. If you're lucky enough that there's not a lot of wind and the fish are kind of concentrated somewhere and you can fish a spot for a while, that's a pretty comfy way to spend a few hours.
Yeah. And obviously the design is what piqued my interest, but also the seat, like you mentioned. How high is that seat off the deck?
It's about 14 inches off the deck. Yeah, but then your feet are on the paddle, which is down a little bit still from there. So spoiler alert, my day job is I work in the office furniture industry. So I've designed several office chairs, and that, obviously designing the seat was, quote, the easy part for me, because, I have pretty good understanding of ergonomics and, the angle of the seat in the back to give most people, the best comfort possible. But then also the way the chair mounts to the boat, can't really see it in this image, but there's a track. So the chair can move fore and aft on that track. And then those rear support legs are attached separately. So you can actually tip the chair. You can change the angle of it.
Okay.
So that you kind of position yourself as a user in a way to balance the boat, so it sits nice and level in the water to maximize the stability of it. And then you'll notice the paddle also has a track. So the pivot point is mounted in a track with quick release levers, kind of like what you'd have on your bicycle. So you can move your paddle fore and aft, because that's important to be easily adjustable, because it's not just making an adjustment for like one person. I've also found that if I'm going to paddle a distance, I move the paddle out a little farther so I can make bigger strokes.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just going to work a shoreline like for the next several hours, I'll pull it in so I have my feet more under me, and it just makes for a little bit more comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Comfort's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I'm a runner, and I spent a lot of time in my little kayak where I got done fishing after a few hours and I couldn't like stand up. My legs were straight out and they got stiff.
Yep.
Like, oh my God.
I think just about every kayak angler has been in that position at one point.
Yeah.
Because I've said it many times before, but I started out in the real tiny sit inside Pelican, and hard plastic seat, it hurt my back.
I almost didn't kayak fish because of my first experience in one. So
yeah.
It can be rough on the lower back and hamstrings and stuff. So
yep, I agree.
No, yeah. So the drive, man, it's pretty cool. I've never seen that. I've never even thought about using a paddle with your feet. It's cool. Can you throw any paddle you want in there?
The paddle actually comes with the boat.
Okay.
So we include the paddle because number one, it's a little bit longer than normal.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice the footrests there are also a really important piece of the comfort. So they're attached to the paddle shaft through a rubber bearing, and that bearing allows the footrest to actually move relative to the paddle. So you when you're paddling, your angles aren't having to do all of that work of going through that angular motion. The rubber basically does that work for you. So you're doing something more of just an in and out with your feet as you're paddling, which makes a huge difference to how long you can go, before you start feeling some discomfort.
So let me try to get this right. As you're paddling it kind of like does it for you, like the angle, or do you have to control that with your own feet?
I try to actually think about holding my ankles a little bit more stiff to have the rubber do its job. Because because you can move your feet, you can actually, still translate your ankles.
Right.
And you just don't need to. All you need to do is just kind of to focus on just doing a more in and out motion, and it's really easier on you. It's just sometimes you especially like the first time out on it, you might not think that, and maybe not realize that that kind of flexibility exists.
So, yeah, I was wondering how you would be able to control the paddle dipping in the water like that, how much of a circular motion, needs to occur with your feet / knees, legs, whatever. And then on top of that, being able to control, because, obviously if you're dipping your paddle too far in the water, it becomes very, very inefficient. And then if you're obviously not getting the blade down in the water significant further enough, it's going to be really inefficient at that point because you're not going to be moving very far.
Yeah. It's something that, I think some people look at the video of this thing in motion and they think, boy, that doesn't seem intuitive, or I'm worried about how easy that's going to be to learn. And for the people that have been on it, they don't find it difficult at all to learn. There is some people, actually, if you look at the videos that are on the website, that gentleman, that was literally the first time he was ever on it. I was thinking to myself when we were shooting the video, like, I think this guy's better on this thing than I am, and I've been on it for 100 hours, because some people are just more athletic, right? But
yeah,
I have another buddy who's less athletic, and I put him on it, and it was maybe 5 minutes where he was sort of stumbly for 5 minutes. He's like, he says, like, boy, this is different. That's the first thing he said to me. But then by the time we rounded the corner, the first corner, because I was in another one with him, and he's like, this thing is awesome. So it didn't take long. He was also the same guy that he has always fished from a I can't remember what you call it. It's a little plastic boat, not the Bass Raider.
Oh, the Prowler?
It's like a duck boat.
Okay.
Like a sneak boat. And anyway, he uses a trolling motor, and we went to a lake on a day there was probably 10 to 15 mile an hour breeze, and we fished for a couple hours, and he had migrated over to the other side, and I paddled over to him, and he's like, this is crap. I sit here and I'm messing with my motor constantly, and I've seen you do nothing but fish. You just keep casting. And I went into this thing thinking, like, having an electric motor, I was gonna have so much, easier time than you. But it's like it's ridiculous how much more fishing you've got to do than I have. I don't know if I caught any more fish, but because he's I'm a better product designer than fisherman, I guess.
That's funny. I want to know what kind of speed you get while you're pedaling the thing.
So when I'm paddling, probably 3 miles per hour, something like that.
That's pretty good.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm going to cover much distance, I throw a trolling motor on the back of it because I'm lazy.
Yeah. Well, we were going to talk about that a little bit too. So.
Yeah, there's an integral transom on the hull. Because there's a lot of interesting solutions for mounting trolling motors, and there's been a lot of advancement in that in the last 2 to 3 years. When I started this thing, most guys with a trolling motor had some form of a 2x4 involved. Yeah, it was usually a Rube Goldberg, but now there's manufacturers that are kind of allowing for this in their designs and making it much easier. But it was important to me that you could just use a regular old generic, if you wanted to throw a Minn Kota on the thing, throw a Minn Kota on this thing. You don't need to spend, $1,000 on a really expensive kind of specialized trolling motor.
Yeah, like Torpedo or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly do it.
Yeah.
It's just you don't have. It's your choice.
Right. No, that's cool. Like, I like that you can put the trolling motor on the back. You can still probably reach around and, control it that way because the well's not that long like a typical kayak.
Yeah. If you're, I actually have 2 seats. The seat where it flips up, like that you were showing earlier. I also have just a regular swivel seat. So if you're going to use a motor a lot, like all the time, the swivel seat's nice just because it allows you to turn your body so you don't have to reach back. So yeah, like there you go right there. So on the left, showing the trolling motor just mounted off to the side so you can use the flip up chair, which is a little bit nicer for standing because the swivel chair doesn't get as much out of your way to stand in front of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but then the other picture there with the little 2.5 horse gas outboard, that was really not something that we initially designed for, but we had people talk about it, and I love that little stupid thing. It's a little Suzuki motor with a gas tank part of it. The whole thing weighs 29 pounds. And, so I mean, actually compared to the Minn Kota with the battery, it's lighter, and it's like 2 thumb screws and it's on and I'm going. Like and I don't know, it's just so much easier than the trolling motor to me.
Right.
And it's twice as fast.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that thing's probably pretty quick with that thing on it.
Well, it's not a speed demon. I don't want to oversell it. I think you'll get about 6 miles an hour.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely faster than the trolling motor. The best I can get out of trolling motor is like between 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Funny how 1.5 miles or 2 miles an hour feels somewhat like a really big deal.
Yeah. I used to have a motor guide for the front of my kayak, and then I had a Torpedo one time, and there was a 2 mile per hour difference in between the two, and I'm like, this is crazy. Couldn't believe how different it was.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Let's talk about I just scrolled past it. Sorry, guys.
You want me to screen share it? Whatever you're going to talk about.
No, you're probably on it. It's on the features tab. Let's talk about your storage options that's available on it. I saw a couple pictures with it looked like a locking box for where it looks like a well for tackle boxes.
Yep. Yeah, back there. So it's just a way that you can cover your tackle or put a cooler in there. My normal is a cooler on one side and my tackle boxes on the other. And then I'll stick the pliers where that gear track is, and on the other side is a nice sized bin for plastics and that sort of a thing. So
that's a great idea, man. I'm really digging that because one of the biggest things you see with people who are into kayak fishing, especially the tournament scene, is trying to bring all the tackle that they possibly can.
Yeah.
And you are solving an issue in which it's hard for people to bring extra tackle, and they're storing it like all over the kayak, and sometimes they're making it having to put it in places that are a little bit harder to reach
Under
and
the seat, inside the hatch.
Yeah, inside the hatch especially. And then you worry about it floating around down in there, unless you're real good about, some people put like rubber matting or whatever inside. But I mean, you've got an area to be able to hold a crate. So you got whatever you can put in your crate. And then, I mean, it looks like it can hold 2 or maybe 3 to 4 3,700 boxes.
3 per side. Yep.
I mean, that's six boxes just in that hull storage areas, and that's pretty impressive because I know Brad and I are both part of the Yak Gadget, and that XD crate that they have holds how many, Brad? I can't remember offhand.
I got 5 in mine, but I'm also using the battle box too.
Yeah, and so I mean, that's a lot of tackle, and I know a lot of guys that they don't necessarily carry that on tournament day, but on pre-fishing days where they're trying to, go through a lot of baits and figure out what the fish are biting on. That's a great feature to have on that kayak, that you don't see anybody else really doing that,
Yep. Thank you. Yeah. I like it just because you can take as much stuff as what you want for how long you want to be out, and especially if you're going to do something like fishing in the Mississippi where you don't really know exactly what there's a lot of, potential things that you can do. So having more space is always welcome. And there's quite a bit of space inside the hull as well. So you can see just in front of the Trident logo on the deck, there's a hatch there.
Oh, yeah.
And then that really opens up to the inside of the hull. There's actually an integral bag so stuff doesn't go rolling away from you.
Okay.
The storage inside generally is used for like transient storage. You had scrolled up and showed the rod going into the bow hatch. That was that was something that is really a problem that a lot of guys deal with, where if you have a 7.5 foot rod, where do you put this thing? I have a Honda Ridgeline, and I could put my kayak in there fine, but every time how do I tie up my rods? I have my rods either sticking out the window, or which I don't know, I just hate doing that.
I do too.
And then I put them in the bed of the truck, and then you say, dang, I'm hungry. I'm going to stop at McDonald's, and they've got $700 of rod and reels sitting in the bed of the truck that are like one tie strap away from departing.
Yeah.
So this allows you to get them into the boat, and it's not lockable. It's actually a hinge, a dual hinge. So it's a clasp and a hinge on both sides. So you can open it the way it's shown in this picture, where you're accessing it from the front. So say the boat's in your bed of your truck, you can take rods and reels in and out of it while it's on the truck. Or you can actually open it the opposite direction, so it hinges on the side that it's open, and access it from the boat side.
Yeah.
Right. And that's always been a huge feature for me. Like Josh knows, because he's carried some of my boats. I keep everything in my front hatch, and being able to store your rods inside while you're transporting the kayak to and from the water, man, it's one of my favorite features on a kayak in general.
Yeah, Brad likes to weigh his boats down and make them virtually impossible to carry.
Yeah, they get over like 100 pounds.
The first time we ever went out, dude, I slipped and dropped his kayak on a rock. I was like, oh, sorry, man.
Well, since we're on the topic of weight, how much does this thing weigh?
So it's a fiberglass hull, and its capacity is 550 pounds. The weight of the boat with the chair on it's about 150 pounds. So it's built for capacity. So fiberglass is generally lighter than plastic, but there's just more of it here. It's a bigger boat, and with transporting something that weighs over 100 pounds, most people want to have some help with that.
Right.
So you see a lot of people are buying trolleys, and that was another key learning when we went out to lakes and just watched people. We did just observational research of how are guys doing this today? What are their pain points? One of them that we saw was, show up at the lake, park in the parking lot, and a decent place to launch the boat is 100 feet away. So put the boat onto a trolley, walk that to the water, take the boat off the trolley, take the trolley back to the truck, grab your gear, and make a trip back to the boat, or 2 trips back to the boat, whatever. And it takes time to do that. And it's just more time that you're not doing what you came there to do. So we did the integral wheels on the hull with the idea that you could essentially take the boat out of the bed of your truck, off the trailer, or however you're transporting it, set it down next to your vehicle, gear it all up, pick up the front handle, the integral handle, take it to the water, shove it in the water, and go. There's no back and forth involved with getting in or getting out. You just pick it up and go.
Interesting.
So did you guys have any issues integrating the wheel design into your prototypes, or were you establishing that right away?
No, we did that right from the start. You'll notice every prototype, the wheels got bigger.
Oh, okay.
I think when we started out, they were 4 inches, and now they're 11. And it really just comes down to the bigger diameter helps it roll over, obstacles, and if there's some gravel or whatever, it doesn't just kind of sink right in, because it was important to keep the wheels narrow. So it's a really narrow wheel because the trade-off, obviously, of not having that trolley sitting in your truck while you're fishing is that wheel's in the water, and it's creating some amount of drag. So to minimize that, you'll see like that the cutout for it is scooped out, so it's not like kind of dragging a vertical wall through the water, and then the wheel is only 1 inch wide, so it's not a great big surface that's getting in the way of rolling through the water. And it's kind of interesting. The draw on the boat is pretty similar to my little kayak that I started with, and the fun part is if you do get into shallow enough water that you bottom out, generally you pitch it so it's a little bit tail low, so the first thing that hits the wheel, so you don't get hung up. It's easy to, if you get run up on something, it's easy to get off of it, because it's usually the wheel that you're hung up on.
Makes sense. Kind of like rolling off of whatever you're stuck on.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the materials of it. You said it was fiberglass. Is there a reason you went fiberglass over plastic?
Well, 2 reasons. One was, the Trident Explorer, this model is intended to be the Cadillac of this archetype. So this is a brand new archetype. There's nothing like it. It's obviously unknown of how successful it'll be in the market. We decided we were going to go premium first. So fiberglass is definitely premium material. It allows you to repair the boat. Also allows for customization. So we offer customizations to the boat. Basically things that just can't be done with rotor molded boats. The other side of it was a rotomolded hull mold would be somewhere around $100,000 investment.
Yeah.
So not out of a lack of faith in the archetype and its viability, we chose the fiberglass because the initial investment was also significantly less, so, and also easier to change. So if we were to launch this thing and 2 years in, we're getting feedback that, hey, if this one corner was just a little bit different, it would be so much better for me. And we hear that, and okay, that's something that we can actually change in a fiberglass mold. Whereas in a rotomolded plastic mold, that change would either be impossible or, tens of thousands of dollars to do.
Yeah.
So it gives us some flexibility.
Interesting.
What was your biggest change from first prototype to final production model?
I'd say the design of it, just the look. There's a marked difference. I think you can tell. If I don't give it away, I give it away for almost anybody that I'm an engineer. Something about me just screams, he's an engineer. Like car salesmen figure me out in about 10 seconds.
That's funny.
But I initially work with an industrial designer, and I was okay with the design, but the market wasn't. And I had done a lot of in-person research where it was pretty good feedback. But then when I did blind research on Facebook, that's when you get the really honest feedback. And it wasn't positive. So that's what led to kind of the change in look.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I know people out there can be pretty harsh when it comes to how a kayak looks and stuff like that. But
oh yeah, we argue about everything stupid.
About
the color of the sky. What's the best fishing line?
It's gotten to the point where people are arguing about the color of like the limited edition Hobie. I'm like, really, guys, come on.
Yeah.
That's just what some people are good at.
You,
is
you
complaining.
never know what people argue about. You see those two northern behind me. Those were caught in Canada by my dad and I, and my dad still to this day says that his is bigger than mine. And I think everyone here can see that the one on the left is bigger.
Oh, hold on, I gotta see this.
He'll still argue.
That's funny. Hey, it makes for a good fishing story.
Oh, yeah, he caught his and had to freeze it. This is back before the days of replicas and all that. This a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then I caught mine 2 days later, and I said, "There's a problem." He's like, "What's that?" I said, "Mine's bigger."
He was like, "Oh, that is a problem."
So we decided that this was the solution.
That's funny. I like it.
All right. I got asked the question since I see it on your features. It looks like you guys did a test to swamp the kayak and verify its flotation with a motor. Were you able to sink it?
No, you can sink anything. Just ask the Titanic designer, but it won't sink. There's foam inside of the outer pontoons that'll prevent it from sinking with as much, like with a motor on it and some gear. At some point, you could put enough on it where there wouldn't be enough flotation, but you have everything you need. If you're in the water, it's not going down. It'll be something that you can hang on to till you get help. And I mean, it's an extreme test. I mean, the only way that happens is if somehow you manage to run it into rocks hard enough to completely breach the hull.
Yeah.
I had to work at it for probably 10 minutes to get all the air out of it to make it as bad as it could be. So that's a super extreme test, but I mean, that was just, we wanted to show that this isn't just some, kind of somebody's little idea. This is something that's been engineered thoroughly. We've worked with a Coast Guard to set the appropriate limits to get their classification of the boat because of it being so different. It wasn't clear cut. It essentially registers just like a kayak. So you don't have to put numbers on it unless you put a motor on it. As soon as you put a motor on anything, then you've got to put numbers on it.
Yep. Same thing in Ohio, except here in Ohio, we have to register the kayak. We still got to get a sticker. I don't know how.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's done on a total state by state basis. And I've been places where you don't need any sticker or anything until you motorize it. And then with Ohio, they have two different, they have what they call like a standard registration and then an alternative. And it's funny because alternative one is meant for something without a motor. And it's actually like $3 to $5 more expensive than the standard one, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Wow.
You'd think that they would kind of charge a little bit more for something that's potentially going to use gas or something, and it's not really the case. It's like, but it's obnoxious. They're very strict about where it's placed at, or they used to be. It might not be as much, but I got yelled at by a ranger once because of where the alternative registration was on for one of our kayaks that we had.
Yeah.
He was like, it needs to be on the other side so I can see it. And I'm like, well, what if the boat was turned the other direction?
I know. I never know where to put the sticker either. It's kind
of never question the logic of a bureaucrat.
Yeah. Right. Well, I don't know if we asked this question or not. How long is it?
It's just over 10 feet long.
Okay.
And it's about 48 inches wide.
Oh, nice. Wow. So I'm guessing it does track pretty well, even though it's that short.
Yeah, it has a large keel down the center pontoon that makes a a huge difference there. You can kind of see it right there for tracking. So I guess that was one of the learnings from the prototypes, that keel. The first one didn't have it, and adding that made a huge difference to the tracking of it. So
That's cool, man.
It's kind of crazy because when you look at it on the photos, it looks longer.
Yeah.
Especially on the one that says tested with 600 pounds. And then in the swamped pictures, it actually looks like it's like, you know, a 12 to 14 footer. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's just over 10.
Yeah, it started out just 8. I thought it was really important to try to make it so you could close it in the bed of a truck.
Yeah.
But people don't want to make a performance sacrifice in the name of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was the basic, you know, kind of message that I got.
It's true. The longer, the faster, you know.
Yep.
And try to explain that to people all the time who are in the market. And I'm like, oh, if you're going to be fishing a lake, that 36 to 38 inch kayak, but it's 10 feet, is going to be a very tough paddle out on the lake in the wind. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Well,
Brad.
I see that you're going to the Cincinnati Fishing Expo. Maybe I'll come and introduce myself.
That would be fantastic.
I will be there.
All right. Well, I'll be there too.
Awesome.
I'm just praying that all these shows are, you know, still held, that nothing gets canceled because of COVID.
Yeah.
So far, had a couple that were canceled, but they were small shows.
Yeah. And I don't think they'll cancel in Ohio. They're pretty lenient on stuff, it seems like.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also going to be at the one in Columbus. Have you been to that one?
Yeah, that's the real big one.
That's what I'm told.
Yep.
That's what I'm told.
But Cincinnati, they had the first one in 2019, right? Josh?
I knew it was newer. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I've been to, obviously we're at the Cincinnati one for Loveland.
Mm-hmm.
The one I used to always go to, though, was the Columbus one. So
yeah, same here.
I've never been to Canoecopia. I'd love to go to do that, man. That would be
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
fun.
I'm planning to do that.
Yeah, see that on your
I'm signed
schedule.
up.
Heck yeah.
Well, one last question. How much is it?
So the list price is $24.99 for the base model, and then you can see there's some options and customizations available. So I think, you know, for somebody that wants to really detail it out to be exactly what they want as far as like gear, obviously you can do that yourself. It's fiberglass, so it's pretty easy to work with as far as like to mount a gear track, you just screw right into the fiberglass. It'll, you know, hold a screw well. But it is easier to do some customization work if there's any kind of interior work needed. Obviously the hull's made in 2 pieces. So before it's joined, if say you wanted it wired, or if you wanted to mount the transducer for a fish finder in the back of the boat and run the wire through the hull, it's a whole lot easier to run that before you join everything together.
Right.
So just saves a little bit of time and get a little more professional installation in the end that way.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even think about transducer. How do you go about doing that on this boat?
On my first boat, I actually hard mounted it, ran the wire internal, and it looks sweet. Honestly, I mean, it looks like professional. To be honest with you, though, my personal boat that I use to knock around, I use a suction cup mount. Because I don't always, if I'm going to launch in an area that's pretty unimproved, you know, where I'm dragging the boat through a lot of weeds and junk, I found that rigidly mounted transducer, I haven't damaged it, but it's just like I'm just looking at it thinking it's only a matter of time before I damage this thing.
Right.
I like the idea of that suction cup and I just pop it on there because I really don't use. If I'm fishing a body of water, I don't use the fish finder a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that and you get weeds, caught on it, and you start getting weird readings, and it's up underneath the boat in the most, one of those really accessible areas. It's not what you want to do is try to be clearing off whatever lake salad that you decided to, gather up on it. So,
yeah,
right, yeah, kind of like if you have a prop drive or a pedal drive with a prop. Getting into weeds with that thing.
Yeah.
It's a pain.
I've had a few of those experiences where I spend 5 to 10 minutes untangling the prop drive from fishing line or whatever. So
yeah, it'll make you not go out once it's August.
Yep.
At that time of year.
Well, I think we're winding down unless you have anything else.
I didn't have any other questions. Greg, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I really appreciate you guys. We're trying to get the message out about this new boat. It's really challenging to launch a new brand. I'm sure that's one of those obvious statements, but and then when it's something that's really different, it's a blessing and a curse. For some people, change this big is something that they're not prepared to make. They want to see some adoption before they take that jump. So that's what we're trying to do is kind of create that initial interest and get some adoption to get it out there. I think it's another thing we haven't really touched on. It's really important to me is the boat was designed here in Iowa. It's manufactured here in Iowa, and the parts that make it up are all from the Midwest. Nice. Most of them actually from the state of Iowa as well. And could we save a couple bucks? We're to foreign source components probably, but I'm not doing it. I believe in supporting our local businesses as much as humanly possible, and the only part that's on the boat that is not from the U.S. are the little clasps for the adjusting the paddle, because literally you can't buy them in the U.S.
Wow.
Crazy. I guess there's some things that we've just given the manufacturing away and can't do it anymore. I mean, we could do it, but we're just choose not to.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I want people to understand, that we've put that extra effort in there to build that American quality into the boat, and we're going to stand behind it. To support you getting started, and if you have any questions, feel free to look me up, and I'd love to answer any questions you have.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, let everybody know where they can follow you on social media and stuff.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. So adventure designs _watercraft. And then also on Facebook, Adventure Designs LLC. And the website is adventuredesignswatercraft.com.
Awesome. Are you in any paddle shops yet?
I had a boat in Crawdaddy Outdoors. He's since gotten inundated with inventory, and I had to pull it out of there. I had several paddle sport shops local to the Midwest that had wanted one late last year, but they were all inundated with inventory in August and September. So the orders that they were supposed to have received in May and June came late.
Yeah.
And that created a real problem for them as far as, getting inventory very late in the year. where sales was tough, and then also just physical space. So right now our focus is on selling direct and building awareness at these sport shows and online. And we'll rekindle the effort to get it into some shops, probably in the early second quarter next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Hopefully the supply stuff settles down some.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's been quite a mess, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Across the board.
Yep.
Yeah, guys, go on his website, check out his schedule he has. He has a bunch of fishing shows he's gonna be at. So if he's at a local one near you, go drop by and say hi. Check out his boat.
Okay. Greg, thank you for taking the time to share your products. And, if you ever want to come back on the show and talk some more kayak stuff, feel free to reach out to us, man.
All right. That'd be great. It's been a great time.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Good first episode of 2022, man. I had fun. So we will see you guys next week. So in the meantime, have a good one.
See ya.